And now we have Prize4Life, Infrastructure and Resources for ALS Research. Iris Perl, Prize4Life.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to introduce the head of our research team, Dr. Noah Davis. She's with me here. She will help me to overcome all the technology here, because I'm still using this paper and pen, what we call. And if you don't mind, I'll be using this. Does that bother anybody that I'm using it? No. That's Duane Reade, New York, nothing. $25. Okay, for years, by the way. Okay, Prize4Life International. What we're doing is really building the infrastructure and research for ALS research. We mainly use the power of big data, which I will show you today, and the crowdsourcing in order to fight and find the cure for ALS. Who we are? It's a nonprofit organization that was founded and still led by ALS patients. These ALS patients really assume and really believe that they need to find a cure for themselves because they are the best ones to do it and to find what are the barriers in order to find the sources and the cure for the disease. We have a mission statement. The mission statement really says that we try to use powerful incentive to attract new minds that will come to drive innovation. And what we do is we give prizes, significant prizes, but to only measurable achievements. I mean, after the researcher achieve what we put in front of them, we give them the prize, not before. We try to solve by that critical, we can say, critical research questions that we have a scientific board that has a lot of work in front of her, and almost every year, every other year even, they put a critical issue in front of the researchers around the world, and then we called for everybody who would like to submit a proposal, to submit a proposal and try to solve the problem. We aim to identify and work to remove the barriers that the pharmaceutical companies keep on telling us that they have in order to know and find how to develop efficient ALS treatments. Okay, now I'm going to see how big data and rare disease, how they are connected together. One of the things that we found out is that we have we don't have a lot of data on rare diseases, and we're talking about ALS. So we found out that the technology now gives us a lot of things that we can enable the researcher to have these days. We can give them genetic data, we can give them clinical data, correlation between other, like Parkinson or other neurodegenerative diseases that there are. And we can also give them data, what we call non-disease data, like other things, well, even environmental data that may cause also the disease. So what we found out is that we are missing better data sources, more collaboration between researchers around the world. We found out that there are so many research that are repeating themselves. And we need more research, more and more research. What we can do about it? Identify data resources, foster collaboration, and foster more research. So how we do it? We use big data to create personalized medicine. What we mean about that, I don't know, I hope everybody have already heard about PROACT till today, which called the Pooled Resource Open Access ALS Clinical Trials Database. This is the largest database that is open for all the researchers around the world. Why we build that? Because we think that we could collect, and I'll show you numbers in a few slides, subject records from thousands of trials, the trials that were made from phase 2 and 3, and this is open for all the researchers around the world. We cleaned it, we harmonize it, and we make it, of course, anonymous data. And this enables scientists to use it for their research. Later on, this also increases collaboration between researchers, and it's also makes shorter the time, and it's like it saves a lot of money for researchers, because they can use what they see there, and not to repeat the mistakes or results that have already been found. These are some data that we have. We have about 8,500 plus de-identified patient data, 17 completed clinical trials. The 18 is now in process. 1.7 million lab data, and this is what it gives. It gives the demographic, clinical, everything, and it's open for all the research community in the world. It's very easy. It's very easy to, the next slide. It's very easy to enroll. I mean, Noah is the one who is responsible for that. And over 1,200 requests we have now. You can see from where they are coming, and they keep on coming in emails, and Noah is the one who gives the authorization. What was the impact what is the impact on ALS? From scientific, we all understand that they understand the natural history of the disease, it's a heterogenetic disease, so they can see from many parts of the world, and many samples to see what is the difference between each trial, what are the differences. We have also, from clinical point of view, one of the things is that we can see that it reduced the cost of the future ALS research. And of course, it bring initiatives and researchers to work together. The second one about big data is to provide information and support research efforts, and how we do that. We can say built or initiated the ALS Research Forum. It was established by Prize4Life in 2009, and 2016, we're very glad that ALSA, the association in the United States, joined us, and we are working on it together. The ALS Research Forum is, again, free, and it gives all the updates about what's going on in the world about ALS, ALS from point of view of research, new treatments, medications, publications, we're now working on to have some seminars and questions and things. It's also open to doctors and researchers around the world. And there have been many collaborations through this that we saw. One page, this is an example of one page, how it looks like in the web. Next one, using big data to monitoring ALS. Okay. We all know the ALS FRS, right? The questionnaire, that all the research need to use it nowadays in order that they will get the approval of a treatment if they succeed in the trial. This is a pen and paper, what we call a questionnaire, that has 12 questions about the patient's ability to perform what we call daily functions, like breathing, walking, handwriting, hand lifting, swallowing, things like that. So the assessment is very costly because it needs that the patient will go to the clinic. And just to tell you from some of my experience and our experience is that if a patient goes to a clinic on Tuesday morning and the clinicians writes down the questionnaires and give him a mark, and then he goes on Wednesday noontime, he gets a different score. And if he goes, of course, if he goes after 2 weeks, 3 weeks, or more than that. So why is it a major barrier? It's a major barrier because it's subjective. Sometimes the clinicians or the doctors sees behind or interprets what the patient says in a different way than another doctor would do it. And it requires, like we say, the clinical visit, and it's costly and difficult, like I said. And it's prevent also frequent visits from the patient. For what we think is that we know that almost $1 billion of medicine effort to develop treatment on ALS, and they all rely on this, entirely on this method, on this thing. I mean, in order to approve for a medicine, you have to bring the records of the patient according to this. So this is what we came with, the ALS Mobile Analyzer. This is a very simple application on the smartphone. Each one has a smartphone that we have all the questions that, and beside the questions, we have also some other tasks, very easy tasks. It takes about 5 to 6 minutes for a patient in his home in comfort without having to go through anywhere else, and it goes, like you see, quickly from the patient through the iPhone to the database, to the researchers or the doctors or the clinicians, and then back to the patient, because if he needs any kind of change in his treatment or okay, the impact. I can tell you that we were addressed by organizations that have, like, I'll tell you, in Australia, for example, when they have a very big difficulties for the patients to go to see their doctors because of the distance, and they're asking, and they say that this could be the best solution for them if it is connected to their doctors. Patients feel like, and we have patients from all over the world, from Arab countries to Far East, that are using it, and they send the material to their doctors. We are now in the phase that we are going to build it for the doctors, also the doctors who would like to use it for the patients, and also researchers, also companies that are doing research are interested in having this application for the research in order to facilitate and get the data from the patients immediately. I mean, they can just press send and it goes to the scientists. We have, I think that's it, yeah? Am I missing something? Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Iris. So we have time for a couple of questions. Yes, Pablo? Yes.
Thank you very much for the great presentation, and also thank you very much for the excellent work and resources for us. Last year in Dublin, we reported our long-term follow-up data of Western patient who used the Chinese medicine, the nearly 14-year follow-up. And because of your resources, we were able to compare our database with yours, and our survival is much, much longer. It's very, very different. And so because of this work that you provide, and I have a question, because at the back of my mind, our over 400 patients over the last 14 years, their follow-up, we know what happened to each of the patients, almost 98% of the patient. And their survival, we know whether they're living or not. In our database, In my recollection, you have about 50% of patients without death record. Whether they're living or not, we don't know. So we basically use the survival data that already exists in your database, but always back of my mind, whether those people who do not have a survival data, whether they're living or they're simply just not enough people to follow up on those, because there is a compilation of all the clinical trials over the last 15 years. But we can help if you want to follow up on those. It will be very, very important to have the database even more complete. Thank you very much.
Thank you. You want to answer?
Thanks for the question. All the data in the database were donated by pharmaceutical companies, so we don't have any follow-up data on the patients that do not have survival data. But but data are anonymized. We don't have the identities of the patients.
It could be an effort having somebody, the nonprofit, to ask the pharmaceutical to see what happened to those patients, because we can do the online check, like the instant checkmate, and people find it easily. All the information.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Pablo, I think we'll have, this is all the time we have for questions right now. So if you'd like, please follow up with Iris afterwards.